This is the XiaoMi Mi 11. This is the very first phone that is officially launched with the Snapdragon 888 SoC. But it's missing a few key features that makes an ultra premium smartphone. For example, it's missing the telephoto lens and an official IP rating. But if you're not that kind of person that does not really care about those things, this is a great flagship smartphone. Let me tell you why. But before that, a quick disclaimer. At the moment of recording, this phone is not officially launched globally yet, except China. I'm not sponsored by XiaoMi in any way, and I bought this phone with my own money from a reputable seller, which is Lin. So he brings in phones from China, which means that this is an imported set. I put a link to his Facebook page down in the description below. By the way, for those of you who have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. You would be helping me out a lot. Just click that button right there. Click it now. Let's get back to the review. This model that I have is the glass back model, not the eco leather model. It doesn't attract fingerprints as much as a glossy back, but the fingerprints are still visible. I love how the colors shift when you look at it from different angles. The front display is protected by Gorilla Glass Victus, the same material that is used in the Galaxy S21 series, and there's already a screen protector pre-installed. It is slightly curved, but not too outrageous like the Mate 40 Pro's waterfall display. The frame is made out of aluminum. There are no buttons on the left-hand side of the phone. The top has the tuned by Harman Kardon speakers, which gets really loud, a microphone, and an IR blaster. Now, this is something that you do not see on other phones anymore. The right-hand side of the phone has the volume and power buttons. Looking at the bottom, we have the other speaker grill, which looks like a waveform, another mic, USB Type-C port, and the dual SIM tray. I would also like to point out that the top and bottom of the phone are totally flat. Oh, and one more thing. There's also a heart rate sensor integrated with the fingerprint reader. Let's try out the speakers. Because when a phone manufacturer proudly states that their speakers are tuned by a certain company, it better be good. First, let's hear some music from the Mi 11. And now, let's hear from the iPhone 12 Pro Max. What do you guys think? Which one is better? Let me know down in the comments. The display on the Mi 11 is probably one of the best displays I have ever seen on a smartphone. The Mi 11 supports a resolution of up to 1440p, 120Hz display, and supports HDR10+. But for some reason, Xiaomi shipped out the phone at a default rate of 60Hz out of the box. And this display can go up to 1500 nits of brightness. That is exactly the same as the recently launched Galaxy S21 Ultra. And for the sake of comparison, the iPhone 12 Pro Max can only go up to 1200 nits, and the S21 and S21 Plus can only go up to 1300 nits. Keep in mind that this phone costs less than 800 USD, which is around 3,000 ringgit. It's amazing how they can keep costs down while having such an amazing display. But we'll soon find out how Xiaomi managed to launch a phone at this price. Where did they cut corners? As you might have already known, the Mi 11 is powered by the Snapdragon 888. It comes in two RAM configurations, either 8GB or 12GB, and 128GB of storage, or 256. The one that I have is the 8GB model. For those of you who are interested in benchmarks, the data that I have for the other phones listed here is obtained from GSM Arena because I do not have these phones in hand. The single-core CPU score that I was able to achieve for the Mi 11 using Geekbench is 1096. Now, how does that compare to the rest of the 5nm chipsets? Apple's A14 Bionic is still ahead of the pack and leads the Snapdragon 888 on the Mi 11 by about 47%, while the Exynos 2100 on the Galaxy S21 lags just a bit. Take these results with a pinch of salt because supposedly the Exynos 2100 should outperform the Snapdragon 888 in terms of raw CPU power. Moving on to the multi-core CPU score. The score that I managed to get with the Mi 11 is 3413. The pattern here is more or less the same as the single-core CPU scores, but the A14 Bionic's lead here is not as substantial. Moving on to the GPU, the benchmark that I use is 3D Mark using the Slingshot Extreme Unlimited test. The Adreno 660 GPU on the Snapdragon outperforms the Mali G78 GPU on the Exynos 2100 by about 8.6%. But how does that performance translate in real life? Using non-CPU intensive apps like Facebook and WhatsApp, performance is great. You don't really notice any stutters or lags when switching between apps. And the fact that the display is 120 Hz further refines that experience. MIUI 12 is quite aggressive in terms of RAM management. There are a few instances where I missed or received notifications late from apps like Gmail or Telegram. I did some Googling and I found that I would need to enable auto start for each of the apps to avoid it from getting killed in the background. Now, there are articles going around the internet about the Mi 11 getting hot on the heavy load. I'm not sure whether this is because of the Snapdragon 888 SoC or because how heat is dissipated within the Mi 11. I played two of the most demanding games in my tests over a duration of 30 minutes with the highest possible settings. In PUBG, I chose Ultra HD settings and Ultra frame rate, while in Genshin Impact, I chose the highest settings and 60 FPS. Prior to my gaming sessions, I measured the temperature at the front of the phone and also at the back, and I did the same after I'm done. I also wrote down the battery charge level to find out how much the battery drained over time when I did my gaming test. Here are the results. When playing both games, at the end of my session, the phone gets warm at the top portion of the phone beside the camera module. After 30 minutes, the temperature recorded would be around 40 to 41 degrees Celsius, which honestly feels really uncomfortable. The battery drain for Genshin Impact is more compared to PUBG, which could be attributed to the better visuals in the game. I've tested the charging speeds of the Mi 11 over a few cycles using the 55-watt gun charger that I've bought together with the phone. In the first cycle, I was able to charge to full from 25% in about 41 minutes. In the second cycle, it took me 43 minutes to charge to full from 17%. And finally, in the third cycle, I was able to charge to full in the same amount of time as the second cycle from the same charge level. So the charging speeds are pretty consistent, and Xiaomi's claims that the phone is able to charge from 0 to 100% in 45 minutes is pretty legit. As for battery life, I am not that impressed with the 4600 milliamp hour battery pack in the Mi 11. The screen on time that I managed to get averages around 5 hours to 5 hours and 15 minutes. And if you're a heavy user and you use the phone to take a lot of images, videos, and probably play games a little bit, it won't last you the whole day. To me, a phone with a great battery life should at least last you until night, because if the phone dies in the middle of the day, there's no point having a fast charger because you need to find a power outlet anyway. The Mi 11 has 3 camera sensors: the 108 megapixel Samsung ISOCELL Bright HMX, the 13 megapixel ultra-wide, and a 5 megapixel macro lens. I really wish that Xiaomi would at least include a telephoto camera, but we know that they're going to include that in their Pro and Ultra models, which would probably come out in a few months. I would say that the quality from the main lens is pretty good. Colors are not too oversaturated, details are there, and the natural bokeh that you can get from the f1.9 lens is amazing. But sometimes I have issues focusing on subjects in the foreground, so I had to resort to using the Pro mode and focus peaking to adjust the focus manually, like in this one. Quality from the ultra-wide lens is more or less the same with the main lens,
with consistent colors between lenses, and the lens distortion correction algorithm works great. But in this picture, I don't know why, it doesn't seem that HDR is working that well. The camera app has a 2x zoom, but it is a digital zoom, and you can't expect that the quality would be the same as a dedicated telephoto lens. But it's not too shabby. Provided you have adequate light, the results are acceptable, but the color seems a little bit washed out compared to the main and ultra-wide lens. I am quite astonished by the macro lens. Just look at the water droplets in this picture. Although it's not quite as sharp as the main lens, colors are well balanced and accurate. It still can't beat those phones that can get macro shots using the ultra-wide lens though, like the OnePlus 8 Pro. As for the front camera, this is the quality that you can expect. I am particularly impressed with the Mi 11's night mode. The images have just enough sharpness and detail and doesn't look like it's trying to turn night into day. But it was not really that dark yet when I took these pictures. I just want to put it out there. Look at the details on those leaves. But I have to say what impresses me the most is the super moon mode. Just look at this. Would you believe me if I told you that I took this picture handheld? I don't know what kind of witchcraft XiaoMi is doing, but you have to give credit where credit is due. It's not a high-res image, but definitely usable.
So this is the quality that you can get from the front-facing camera. It only supports resolution up to 1080p 60 fps. Too bad there's no 4K. That's just the dynamic range. Let me know what you guys think about the audio. Here are some sample videos that I've taken with the Mi 11. Enjoy. It has been a joy using the Mi 11 for 2 weeks. The jaw-dropping display, the super fast charging, assuming you have the 55-watt gun charger of course, amazing speakers, great cameras, but I still do need a dedicated telephoto camera because nothing beats taking portraits like an actual tele lens. And the phone is not too expensive compared to other flagships. If you buy this phone and expect to be blown away by the Snapdragon 888, be prepared to be disappointed because it's not leaps and bounds of the Snapdragon 865. In fact, if you still have a phone that uses that SoC, I would suggest holding back and probably upgrade next year when the improvements are a little bit more noticeable. If you're looking to upgrade from an older model though, you won't regret getting the Mi 11. That's it for my review. Sorry for it being too long. Let me know down in the comments if you like these kind of in-depth reviews, or would you like me to break it up into smaller videos focusing on only certain aspects of the phone. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to Tap to Wake and click that notification bell so you'll get notified each time I upload awesome new videos.